Vladimir Lenin, a pivotal figure in 20th-century history, spearheaded the Bolshevik Revolution and laid the foundation for the world's first communist state. His strategic genius and revolutionary fervor transformed Russia, shaping the course of global politics and ideology for decades to come. Vladimir Lenin, born into a middle-class family in Simbirsk, Russia, came from a mixed ethnic background, with some historians suggesting partial Jewish and Mongol descent, although this remains a topic of debate among scholars. Vladimir Lenin's childhood was deeply influenced by the execution of his elder brother, Alexander, in 1887. Alexander had been involved in a plot to assassinate Tsar Alexander III, leading to his arrest, trial, and eventual execution by hanging. This traumatic event left an indelible mark on young Lenin, shaping his worldview and igniting his revolutionary fervor. The loss of his brother propelled Lenin into the world of political activism. He became increasingly disillusioned with the oppressive Tsarist regime and the injustices faced by the Russian people. Lenin channeled his grief and anger into a fervent commitment to the revolutionary cause, dedicating his life to the struggle against autocracy and inequality. From an early age, Lenin exhibited a keen intellect and a passion for social justice. His brother's execution served as a catalyst for his radicalization, fueling his determination to challenge the existing order and fight for a better future for the Russian people. Throughout his life, Lenin would carry the memory of his brother's sacrifice with him, viewing it as a symbol of the injustices inherent in the Tsarist system and as a constant reminder of the need for revolutionary change. This formative experience undoubtedly played a significant role in shaping Lenin's ideology and his relentless pursuit of a socialist revolution in Russia. As Lenin matured, his brother's fate fueled his resolve to dismantle the oppressive structures of the Tsarist regime. It instilled in him a sense of duty to champion the cause of the proletariat and lead the struggle for liberation. Lenin's upbringing in the shadow of his brother's execution solidified his commitment to revolutionary principles, shaping his relentless pursuit of social and political transformation. This profound personal loss propelled him into the forefront of the revolutionary movement, where he would emerge as one of history's most influential figures, dedicated to realizing his vision of a socialist society. Lenin's early career as a revolutionary saw him swiftly rise within the Russian Social Democratic Labour Party, RSDLP. He immersed himself in Marxist theory, advocating for a disciplined, centralized party to lead the proletariat. Lenin's strategic brilliance and uncompromising commitment to revolution led him to form the Bolshevik faction, which prioritized a radical approach to achieving socialism. Despite periods of exile and imprisonment, Lenin's tireless organizing and propaganda efforts solidified his reputation as a formidable leader. By the time of the February Revolution in 1917, Lenin stood poised to seize the reins of power and reshape history. The October Revolution, led by Lenin and the Bolsheviks, unfolded with precision and determination. On October 25, 1917, November 7 in the Gregorian calendar, Bolshevik forces stormed key government buildings in Petrograd, St. Petersburg, including the Winter Palace. Facing minimal resistance, they swiftly seized control, effectively overthrowing the provisional government. Lenin's slogan, "All power to the Soviets," resonated as the Bolsheviks gained support from workers, soldiers, and peasants. The revolution culminated in the establishment of the world's first communist state, signaling a seismic shift in global politics and inaugurating Lenin's transformative leadership of Soviet Russia. During the Russian Civil War, 1917 to 1922, Lenin faced the daunting task of consolidating Bolshevik power amidst internal and external threats. Faced with opposition from a diverse array of anti-Bolshevik forces, including monarchists, liberals, and nationalist movements, Lenin mobilized the Red Army, led by figures like Trotsky, to defend the revolution. Lenin's leadership during the Civil War was marked by pragmatism and ruthlessness. He implemented war communism, a series of harsh measures aimed at ensuring the survival of the Bolshevik regime. This included nationalizing industry, requisitioning grain from peasants, and centralizing economic control. Despite causing widespread hardship and famine, war communism was instrumental in securing Bolshevik control and defeating counter-revolutionary forces. Lenin's strategic brilliance was evident in his ability to navigate the complex geopolitical landscape of the Civil War. He skillfully exploited divisions among his enemies, forging temporary alliances with nationalist movements and foreign powers to weaken anti-Bolshevik forces. Ultimately, Lenin emerged victorious from the Civil War, solidifying Bolshevik rule and establishing the Soviet Union as a major global power. However, the conflict exacted a heavy toll on Russian society, leaving a legacy of devastation and political repression. For Lenin, the Civil War was a testament to the necessity of decisive action in defense of the revolution, laying the groundwork for his subsequent efforts to rebuild the war-torn country. In December 1917, Lenin established the Chayka, All-Russian Extraordinary Commission for Combating Counter-Revolution and Sabotage, a secret police force tasked with rooting out internal dissent and counter-revolutionary activities. Led by Felix Dzerzhinsky, the Chayka operated with extraordinary powers, conducting mass arrests, interrogations, and executions without due process. Under Lenin's direction, the Chayka played a pivotal role in suppressing opposition to Bolshevik rule during the Russian Civil War, employing brutal tactics to maintain control. While initially justified as a necessary measure to protect the revolution, the Chayka's actions foreshadowed the authoritarianism that would characterize Soviet governance under Lenin and his successors. The Red Terror was a ruthless campaign of political repression unleashed by the Bolshevik regime under Lenin's leadership during the Russian Civil War. It aimed to eliminate perceived enemies of the revolution, including counter-revolutionaries, monarchists, bourgeoisie, and other dissenting voices. The campaign, which intensified following the failed assassination attempt on Lenin in August 1918, was characterized by mass arrests, summary executions, and widespread violence. Led by the Chayka, the Red Terror targeted not only individuals suspected of opposing Bolshevik rule but also their families and associates. Its methods included arbitrary arrests, torture, forced confessions, and public executions, often carried out without trial or due process. The goal was to instill fear and quash any potential opposition to the Bolshevik regime, consolidating their power and silencing dissent. The Red Terror unleashed a wave of brutality and terror across Russia, leaving countless victims in its wake. Estimates of the number of people killed vary widely, ranging from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. While Lenin justified the campaign as a necessary measure to defend the revolution from its enemies, it also served to solidify the Bolsheviks' grip on power and sow the seeds of fear and mistrust within Russian society, leaving a dark legacy that would endure for decades. In August 1918, Lenin narrowly survived an assassination attempt by Fanya Kaplan, a disgruntled socialist. As Lenin departed a Moscow factory, Kaplan fired 3 shots, injuring him in the shoulder and neck. Although wounded, Lenin's injuries were not fatal. The failed assassination sparked a violent crackdown by the Bolsheviks, leading to the intensification of the Red Terror. This event reinforced Lenin's belief in the necessity of ruthless measures to protect the revolution, further legitimizing the use of state violence against perceived enemies of the Bolshevik regime. Initially, Lenin underestimated Stalin's ambitions, referring to him as too rude and recommending his removal from the post of General Secretary. However, in Lenin's final years, he grew increasingly critical of other potential successors and recognized Stalin's administrative skills. In his Testament, Lenin warned of Stalin's growing power and urged his removal from leadership. Nonetheless, after Lenin's death, Stalin maneuvered himself into a position of authority, ultimately becoming the undisputed leader of the Soviet Union. The Polish-Soviet War of 1919 to 1921 erupted amidst the chaos of post-World War I Europe. The conflict arose from territorial disputes and conflicting ideologies, with Poland seeking to establish its independence and the Bolsheviks aiming to spread revolution. The war saw brutal fighting, with both sides committing atrocities. Despite initial Soviet advances, the Polish army under Marshal Józef Pilsudski eventually repelled the Red Army in the decisive Battle of Warsaw. The conflict ended with the signing of the Treaty of Riga in 1921, which delineated the borders between Poland and Soviet Russia, marking a significant setback for Bolshevik expansionism. Vladimir Lenin, the architect of the Russian Revolution, died on January 21, 1924, at the age of 53. His death was attributed to a series of strokes that had plagued him since 1922. Lenin's passing marked the end of an era and triggered a power struggle within the Bolshevik Party. After Lenin's death, Joseph Stalin consolidated power through a series of political maneuvers, purges, and a cult of personality. His reign brought about significant industrialization and modernization but also mass repression and human suffering. Vladimir Lenin led the Bolshevik Revolution, established the Soviet Union, and laid the groundwork for communist ideology in Russia. His leadership during the October Revolution propelled him to power, where he initiated sweeping reforms, including nationalization and collectivization. Despite controversy and internal dissent, Lenin's legacy remains influential in shaping 20th-century history and global politics.